Are we? The whole battleground has shifted. We're not in criminal court anymore, with its super high bar of beyond a reasonable doubt. No, this has all moved to civil court. And here, the fight is all about money, reputations, and, maybe most importantly, who gets to write the final, official story of what really happened that night.
You know, just a few months after those criminal charges vanished, Karen Reed went on the attack. She filed this explosive civil lawsuit, and just like that, the tables were completely turned. She's not the one on trial anymore. Nope. She's the one pointing the finger, accusing the investigators and Canton residents she claims conspired to frame her from the very beginning.
And look, her legal team is not mincing words here. Their position is crystal clear. They're arguing this isn't just about clearing her name, this is about accountability. They are going after the very people tasked with finding the truth, aiming to prove that this was a malicious prosecution and a complete abuse of power.
So, what is she actually claiming in this lawsuit? Well, this 46-page complaint, it's something else. It basically reads like a full-blown counter-narrative to the entire criminal trial. It completely flips the script, laying out a totally different version of events from the second John O'Keefe walked up to 34 Fairview Road.
Right, so according to this lawsuit, the prosecution's whole hit-and-run theory was just plain wrong. Reed's complaint says the real story, the critical events, happened inside the house. It alleges there was a fight, that O'Keefe was fatally injured indoors, and then, get this, a partygoer made that chilling Google search about how long it takes to die in the cold, all before his body was supposedly moved outside to look like a crime scene. This alternate timeline, it's the absolute foundation of her entire civil case.
And it doesn't stop there. The lawsuit goes on to detail what they claim was this massive coordinated cover-up. And we're talking about incredibly specific claims here, planting physical evidence like taillight pieces, destroying cell phones that were supposed to be preserved by a court order, and even manipulating surveillance video. It paints a picture of a concerted effort not just to build a case against Karen Reed, but to actively bury any evidence that pointed in a different direction.
And at the very heart of this bias claim are these text messages. They're from the lead investigator himself, sent just hours after O'Keefe's body was discovered. Reed's lawyers are basically holding these up as the smoking gun. Proof, they say, that investigators had already decided she was guilty, which would have tainted the entire process right from the jump.
So who exactly is in the hot seat here? Who is Karen Reed actually pointing the finger at? Her lawsuit names a very specific list of people, and you can really break them down into two main groups, the law enforcement officials and the private citizens who were at that party.
Now, this two-pronged approach is really strategic. By going after the state police, her team is claiming a systemic failure and abuse of power from the top down. And by targeting the House defendants, they're directly accusing the people at that party of being involved in both O'Keefe's death and the cover-up they say happened right after.
But, and this is a big but, this legal storm is not a one-way street, not even close. While Karen Reed is absolutely on the offensive with her lawsuit, she's also on the receiving end of some very serious counter-accusations from the same people she's suing and from O'Keefe's family.
So what we have here are two completely opposite realities. It's like two different universes. In one, Karen Reed is the victim, framed by this elaborate conspiracy. And in the other, the people she's accusing claims she's the one outrageously creating a false narrative to dodge responsibility for what happened to John O'Keefe.
I mean, the language being thrown around is incredibly strong. In a legal brief, the House defendants called her entire story a vile work of fiction. They've made it really clear they aren't just going to sit back and defend themselves. They're actually planning to sue her for defamation.
So you have to understand, Karen Reed is fighting a war on multiple fronts now. Yes, she's the plaintiff, the one suing in her civil rights case, but she's also the defendant in a wrongful death lawsuit brought by the O'Keefe family. And now she's got the threat of a defamation lawsuit from the Albert and McCabe families hanging over her head. Okay, so with all these dueling lawsuits and accusations flying back and forth, what on earth happens next? What's really at stake for everyone involved as this whole thing churns through the civil courts?
When you really boil it all down, this whole battle is about three things. Of course, there's the money. We're talking millions of dollars in potential damages. Then there's accountability. Will a court decide there was police misconduct, or will it find that Reed was negligent? But maybe the biggest thing of all for everyone involved is the fight to get their reputations back. Because let's be honest, they've been absolutely destroyed by this case.
So what's the first chess move? Well, Reed's lawyers have already said they're going to ask the court to combine her lawsuit with the wrongful death case filed against her, and the logic's pretty simple. Since both cases are about the exact same night and the exact same set of events, tackling them together might just be a more efficient way to get some real answers.
So the criminal charges were dropped, yeah, but the fight for the definitive story of what happened to John O'Keefe is so far from over. In fact, you could say it's only just begun.